Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load.
Released earlier this month, the McShay weapon pack throws a real curveball in the form of 3 unique meta-bending weapons. Yet strangely, the wildest of the 3 is the one that's probably been talked about the least. This is of course where I, strange build connoisseur, come in. Today, above anything else, I'm going to be talking about the new Venom grenade ammunition for launcher type weapons, or as I call it, the Swamp Juice, which can make the entire map hazy green, effectively turning Washington into Blight Town for Garrett's police force. In doing so, we won't only be melting through the health pools of our foes, we can also become nigh on unkillable due to the damage over time effect activating skills such as Lust for Life in the Anarchist perk deck. Effectively, this means that we'll be able to gate potentially fatal damage every 1.5 seconds without fail. Why then are we not seeing more Fallout 3 filters filling the streets throughout Payday 2? Well, maybe after this video, the sweet scent of onions will sweep DC as more of you join me as true swamp folk. First things first, I want to make it clear that you can happily play with Venom launchers as an entirely secondary playstyle. If you still want to rock a relatively meta build, here I am running the Basilisk grenade launcher alongside the fantastic Versteckt LMG from the same weapon DLC. It fits nicely into a crit anarchist setup where your main focus will be taking out enemies with your primary, whilst the grenade launcher provides support against shields and applies that damage over time effect to defend objectives, lock down spawn points and consistently provide that armor regeneration I mentioned earlier. This build is incredibly straightforward, very meta relevant, and if that ticks all your boxes, you can click off this video to head out and dominate DSOD immediately. I knew you weren't ready for the visionary creation that is the Shrek build. Now for those of you who've stayed, congratulations, you're about to make Payday 2 a much greener place. This is truly one of the strongest concept builds I've put together that actually goes pretty hard in being both DSOD viable and ridiculously fun to play. Not to mention, it's one of the most supportive setups out there if you want to throw around copious amounts of crowd control to help guide your less experienced friends through whatever difficulty you choose to play on. Let's jump now into the key aspects of the weapon and skill choices. First of all, in that primary slot, we have the Piglet grenade launcher, carrying the tactical zapper ammunition, which makes it so powerful. If you've seen my Zeus build, you already know the tech you can leverage with this thing. Simply shoot your own feet, tase yourself, and instantly reload the weapon. This is huge, seeing as the Piglet has a 15-second reload speed otherwise. In the secondary slot, we have the most important aspect of the build, the Viper grenade-fitted Basilisk 3V grenade launcher. Using the Venomous mod set with this weapon can turn it into a surprisingly damaging option, even outside of the damage over time effect it can apply. Of course, remember this is a burst fire launcher, so will empty its loaded ammo whenever fired, but you can still single load it if you wish. For me, this build is all about spamming damage across as wide a radius as possible, meaning I quite enjoy the added fire rate from the burst mechanic. You may spot me using the Arbiter during certain gameplay sections. This is because I wanted to see if I could be even more spam heavy with my grenades, but I've concluded that the 380 damage shortfall of the Arbiter does make it a slightly worse weapon for this setup, if still a viable option you can try out. Moving on to skills, as promised, team support was at the forefront of my thinking, so for once I've actually put points into Medic all the way up to Inspire. Jokers always help the team, and with partners in crime, we can also make ourselves that bit tankier too. Stockholm Syndrome is a skill I generally avoid due to its inconsistent value, but with how we'll be playing this build, it's certainly worth it to have a get out of jail free card on hand. Also, our electric weapon won't damage civs, and poison makes it incredibly easy to take police hostages, so there is some additional synergy there. We can then move to grab Die Hard on tank, as we don't need Bullseye for once due to the double grenade launcher approach. Then, in Ammo Specialist, it's all the way up to Fully Loaded, a skill that will enable us to keep throwing out grenades without really having to think about ammo economy. Even with Bulletstorm and ammo bags, both weapons will go ammo positive with this setup. In Technician, the key skill is Jack of all trades, letting us decide between bringing additional ammo or medic bags depending on the heist and your team's needs. In Ghost, we only have Duck and Cover for a minor movement speed buff, and finally Fugitive brings 9 lives for 1 down, and Feign Death, because it really does support the fast and loose playstyle we'll be sticking to. A 45% chance for instant revival is less relevant on death sentence when you can often be knocked straight out of bleed out, but even so, I like that it enables me to take a few more risks and burden the team less when those risks don't pay off. Finally, Bloodthirst Ace is here to support our weapon reload speed to once again enable more spam for 10 seconds after a melee kill. To round off the build, we'll be playing Suit Anarchist to get even crazier with that armor gating, the Ice Pick, Spoon or Katana in our melee slot, and finally Throwing Knives, which are actually very necessary here as they will be our number 1 tool for dealing with bulldozers, dealing roughly 10,000 damage when we land headshots on them. And that's the build. Crowd control is the name of the game. Explosives can interrupt enemies by launching them, the electric grenades can interrupt through their tase effect, and the venom grenade's poison effect will cause cops to vomit for a brief period. Coupled with your ability to briefly stun enemies by shouting at them for the domination effect, it's entirely possible to incapacitate the entire map if you play this build correctly. You can literally turn heists like No Mercy into a ghost town, and that's not even getting into how incredibly difficult you are to kill at the same time. With the innate protection of Anarchist, including its 2 seconds of God mode, additional healing with medbags, and the Venom Grenade's damage over time effect lasting for up to 30 seconds on tanky enemies, we become effectively immortal for massive portions of the heist, meaning we're not a drain on the team's resources and can make incredibly daring plays on objectives or to secure revives due to the insane armor gating we have access to. Truly, whilst this is a strange build to play and will take some getting used to, it's actually quite beginner friendly once you get a handle on the mechanics. I mean, it certainly doesn't require that much in the way of aim due to the crazy hitboxes of both grenade type. Half the time, we'll be killing enemies above and below us or in completely different rooms without even meaning to. Knowledge of spawn points and objective locations will come in handy, but with Bulletstorm we can freely cover entire sections of the map without even having to worry about wasting our ammo supply. Seriously, this build has a lot going for it. In terms of some tips I can give, and maybe even some weaknesses I could offer, I recommend leaning on the Basilisk whenever holding your position due to its better ammo economy and explosive damage potential, and then when moving around the map, look to spam the Piglet as its crowd control effect will activate instantly, protecting you more outside of cover. As for snipers, the Basilisk is undoubtedly your best bet. It will take some getting used to, but the grenades actually have quite a nice art to them, and even if you don't get a direct hit, the poison gas area effect is so wide, it will generally do the job for you given the sniper's minuscule health pool. Truly, the only enemy type that's likely to cause some serious issues is the Bulldozer. These guys are CC immune, so we won't be able to lock them down. However, we can easily destroy their faceplates with our venom grenades, leaving them very vulnerable to teammates or even our own throwing knives. Throwing knives are actually incredibly useful in the build when we need to take out high health targets such as tasers or cloakers quickly, and thanks to our other weapons forcing most enemies to stand entirely still, we should be able to land them easier than usual. Even with these techs in the build though, dozers, especially the 48,000 health minigun dozers, are still problematic, and I recommend ensuring your teammates are well prepared to take them out in your stead. But nothing's perfect, I suppose. If you're a fan of the Holdout game mode though, this is an excellent build option, allowing you to lock down most of the smaller sized maps and cover the hostage pretty much indefinitely. As a result, this can be a fun setup to level with if you're fed up of AFK farming with turrets. Finally, there's one elephant in the room that I feel the need to mention. My poor old laptop had a really hard time maintaining 60 FPS with this build whenever I started seriously spamming the Basilisk. It's clear that there will be performance drops on lesser machines, so keep that in mind. If that hasn't scared you away from the build, you can either look to knock down the game's overall effect quality, or, you saw where I was taking this, didn't you? Take a look at my range of Apex gaming PCs. I can confirm they shouldn't be dropping below 60 FPS when they were actually designed to work around Payday's slightly strange requirements. You'll find all 3 customizable models down in the description below. Once again, thank you so much for watching. This is about as out there as I could make a build, while still leaning on my favourite crutch, the Anarchist perk deck. But even so, this feels like a completely different way to play Payday, and is definitely a playstyle worth trying out online, as I've found myself passively carrying heists without even having to play particularly well. All that said, keep a lookout for another huge challenge run coming to the channel very shortly, and give this build a go to reclaim the swamp for us heisters. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.